Hello, my name is Nick Pope, formerly from the British UFO Desk, and you're listening to the Galactic Family Podcast.
Hello and welcome everyone to the Galactic Family Podcast. I just wanted to thank everybody for being here for our first guest on the show. We have a great guest for tonight. Reverend Michael J. Carter is a guest on our podcast tonight. He's originally from Baltimore, Maryland. He was an actor before he became a minister, which is really impressive, going from acting to ministry work. He served as a board-certified chaplain and numerous places, and now currently he serves as a minister as the Unitarian Universalist congregation of the Shenandoah Valley, nestled in the beautiful mountains of western North Carolina. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring him on here and welcome Reverend Carter to the show. How are you doing?
How you doing, man? I love how you did that. Most people they stumble over that. But you got it. And I'm glad. It's good to see you. Thanks for having me on. It's been a long day, but I was looking forward to this.
Yes, we were looking forward to having you on here. Well, it brings me to the point that that I got at first in the beginning was going from acting to ministry work. Like, how much of a change was that for you, going from acting to ministry? Like just a change in environment.
Well, that's a great question. Now, I got to tell you, when I was coming up, I knew I was going to be, it's weird, but I knew I was going to be a priest. I didn't know any other word, minister, priest. And I just loved it. I loved church. I did. Not for what it was, but for what it can be. Okay. And so, I mean, as a kid, I didn't know all the politics and all that stuff, but I loved it. And, there's a part of you that wants to, make your parents proud and that kind of thing. But yeah. I got bitten by the theater bug. Someone asked me to join a theater group in Baltimore, which is where I grew up and where I was from, and I got the job.
Oh, wow.
Nice. And I got to tell you, I was just hooked. It's like the classic, one guy got sick, I was his understudy. I went out on stage, and at the end, everybody stood up and clapped, and I said, boy, I could get used to this. And so I went to New York, and, I get a pension from that. I was a professional actor. I have a pension. I was in the unions. But I wanted to serve. I wanted to help people. And it's hard to do that as an actor because it's a really self-absorbed profession. Now listen, I know the Oscars were on the other night. Well, I don't want to badmouth people, but most of your energy is you got to get an agent. You got to get your pictures. You got to take acting classes. You got to take dancing classes. Got to take voice lessons. So, it's really about you. And I just got tired of that. My friends got more excited when I got a show than I did. So I said, what do I want to do? And that yearning was in me. And I went to seminary. I went back to school. I got my BA because I didn't finish when I was younger. So I got my BA. I graduated cum laude from the College of New Rochelle in New York. And then I went to one of the top seminaries in the country. I got my master's degree. And when I got my master's degree, I was 44 years old.
Oh, wow.
And and then I wound up doing chaplaincy. I spent a lot of time in hospitals because I had asthma really, 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 really bad.
Okay.
So I know what it's like to be in a hospital. So I like that. And I got offered a church. This is my first church, the only church I've served. I've filled in for other ministers, but this is the congregation I serve in Black Mountain here in North Carolina. And so back to your question, like we were talking earlier, when I come out in the pulpit, I'm giving a message. I'm like on a stage, I'm standing behind a podium. I
Mhm.
learned in the theater how to deliver a message. I got a script, how to make this come alive, how to do. And so it served me well in, going to the ministry. It was like an extra advantage that I
Okay.
had over people who weren't used to doing public speaking, that kind of thing.
Okay. And like interfaith ministry and
Yeah.
blending multiple traditions. How does that work? Like you're
Oh, good question.
I'm
These are great questions. How did
yeah.
it work? Okay. I was raised Baptist.
Okay.
And but I had questions about it. I still, those are my roots. But I had questions about how a loving God could send people to hell just because they didn't heard of him or believed him, her, whatever. And I just said that I just couldn't reconcile that. So
Okay.
what I started doing was I started studying other religions to see the differences. We know the differences, but also the similarities, right?
Yeah.
And so I was trained that let's like sometimes people will say, my wife is Jewish, I'm not. We want to get married. My wife, who I want to be my wife,
Yeah.
could you do the wedding for us? So I knew enough about other traditions. Tell me what you want, that kind of thing. And I really believe there's a truth in all religions. We may get there a different way. And that always fascinated me. When I
Okay.
became a Unitarian, it was the same thing, Unitarian Universalist,
Okay.
that there were a lot of people who got together and we may not have all agreed about the same thing, but we believed there was something greater than ourselves, that people were basically good,
Yes.
that kind of thing. And so that's what I believe.
Okay. Um your a memorable story that you can remember from you being in your hospital chaplaincy.
Oh boy.
If I pronounce that correctly.
No, no, I hear you. Chaplaincy. Okay, here's a story. When I was training for a chaplain at Roosevelt Hospital in New York City, a friend of mine he got me into chaplaincy. He was an Episcopal priest. And I got there in the morning. We were sitting there planning the day, just shooting the breeze. And the pager goes off. There's a death.
Mm,
And he said, I'm tired. He said, you go down and take care of this.
mm.
And I did. I went down and the body was there. The wife was there. So I tried to comfort her. We talked. And I was leaving. The body was there. They were waiting, to take the body out and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when I turned around, it was such a shrill scream that it made my heart jump. And I turned around, and what had happened, the guy's eyes opened again.
Oh wow.
And I was like, oh my God. And so I closed them. Okay.
So it was just a
And
reaction. He wasn't really
yeah,
awake.
the muscle reaction. Yeah.
Oh wow.
And it was bizarre. And it
Oh,
happened twice. It happened twice. I was getting ready to leave and I heard him go, "Ah." And I said, well, oh my miss, what's wrong? His eye, and so I just kind of held my nurses came in. I said, it's okay, it's okay. The muscle, whatever it was, his eyes were closed when I walked in, but they opened again.
oh
That
my God.
happened twice. That freaked me
Wow.
out, freaked her out too. I
That
got
would have
another
freaked
one.
anybody out.
Now let me tell you one that's really freak out. There was I do kind of laying on of hands, energy work, Reiki,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. And I met a woman in the hospital who I became friendly with, older woman, and she was very, very ill. And I would go and pray with her and pray she would get better, and then she would come back in. So you're not supposed to do this, but you're not supposed to be friendly with them once they leave the hospital. But I just took a liking to this woman, and I gave her the number to contact me if she ever needed me.
Yeah.
And one day, and she would talk about being, possessed,
Oh.
demons. And I wasn't raised Catholic. I was raised Protestant. So I kind of, I thought she was a little off, but I liked her. So one day she called me and she said she needed me to pray. She said she was very scared. And I said, well, what's going on? And then she told me where she lived, and she lived in a housing project near where I live. So anyway, make a long story short, it was August. I went up there after I got off from the hospital, and I went, it was like a welfare hotel.
Yeah.
And, I had my collar on, and I had my Bible, and I go in, and she opens the door. And it was so cold in her room, I could see my breath. But it was about 83, 84 degrees outside.
Wow.
And she used to call me Carter. She said, Carter, I told you that there's a demon around me. There's something wrong here. I was so scared. But I went. She said, I did the Lord's Prayer with her. I put my hands on her head. I read a prayer from my prayer book, and I got out of there.
I would too.
It was so weird. It was so hot. And in her room, whatever energy or whatever entity was in her room, man, I had chills. And when I walked in, you could see the breath. It was, something was there. Something was there. I got out of there. And I never heard from her again.
Well, I hope she's okay.
Oh man!
Wow.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
move.
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that, because
That
there's
is
some
wonderful.
things you don't understand, and I don't play with those things.
No, there's some things you don't mess with.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. You got my respect. I mean, when she told me about it, she was a little off, I think,
Yeah.
and she was a little touched, I think, but she was a good person. She just had a lot of money problems, just hard luck, and she took a
Yeah.
liking to me. But I believed her. I believed her after that.
And then you did a lot of anti-racist work. You got
Yeah.
a presidential recognition.
Yep.
Who was it by?
President Clinton. What had
President Clinton,
happened?
okay.
Yeah. What had happened was, the Unitarian Universalist Association took it very seriously, how we could make a better world, and they trained me as an anti-racism trainer.
Okay.
And I would go to different churches, me and two other trainers, and we would train them on Friday, Saturday, potluck dinner, all that. Sunday, we would do a sermon about how oneness. We all come from the same God, the same source. And so it was in Ridgewood, New Jersey, a very wealthy congregation.
Yeah.
I did not know it till I got there. I mean, this building was like, wow. And I did my thing, and when I got back to church the next week, in my mailbox was a letter from the White House.
Oh wow.
And it was a letter from a woman, and I later got one from President Clinton. She worked for that administration, and she said, I was in the church, I was in the congregation when you spoke, and I told them about you. And yeah, I'm very proud of that.
That's
And then
great.
I got a letter from him, and it wasn't the kind that the form letter you just send to everybody. And I'm very proud of that.
Oh, I would be too, sir.
Yeah,
I would be too.
yeah.
Like,
I was raised that way. I was raised that you look at people, as people.
yes.
Yeah. And so my parents they instilled that in me. And so Who knew? You never know
Yeah.
who's out there watching you.
That's the same that my parents did. People are people.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all there is to it.
That's all there is to it. And and so that's that brings back good memories.
Oh, that's good.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. So how do you view racial recognition through a spiritual and cosmic lens? Like
Great question.
you're sitting there when you're saying that, okay, everybody comes from the same source, everybody's oneness. Is there racial recognition through the stars? Or is it kind of like us?
Great question. I think it's kind of like us. In my experiences with extraterrestrial intelligences, they don't look at, because there's so many species of them. You got
Yes.
the Greys, you got the Nordics, you got the tall whites, you got the praying mantis, you got the Arcturians, you got the reptilians. And so I have found that just like human beings, and even the Bible, if you read the Bible carefully enough, there are some of these beings who are friendly. There are some who are not so friendly.
Yeah.
And there's some who are kind of just neutral. We're just watching how all this is going to play out. So in that way, they're like human beings. Who's the brother? Charles Hall. He wrote Millennial Hospitality, all those books about, he talked about some of them, the tall whites he worked with specifically, that they had kids, they had families. And so, there was a wife, there was a husband. So, I think obviously there are differences, but they still want the best for their kids. They still, you have some people who are, like I said, who are friendly or would like to be, and you have some people who just think we're lower than dirt and we're violent and we're, a violent people, and so they figure, what's the point? Why are we wasting our time?
Well, I guess it depends on who they see first when they come down here.
Yeah.
That'll base, off of what they think about us.
Well, they see our history too. I mean, they see
Yeah.
that we exploded. We split the atom over Nagasaki and Hiroshima. They see that. They see the unrest, the racial unrest. They see the greed. They see all of this. And so, they can still say, yeah, we can take people individually, but they see as a species collectively,
Yeah.
we can do some harm.
Yeah, we could.
We can do some harm.
Now, do you have any, can you describe your first contact
Yeah.
and how it changed your life?
Yes.
Okay.
December 28th, 1989, coming back from seeing the pyramids on the Yucatan, Chichen Itza, and Tulum. I was not into UFOs or anything like that at the time. I was kind of leaving the Baptist tradition because that wasn't a good fit for me anymore. So I was reading philosophy, existential philosophy, metaphysics, that kind of thing. And when I got back from, when we got back, my girlfriend and I at the time, who later became my first wife, we got back from Mexico, and we got off at JFK. We got back home. We lived in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. She decided she was going to stay home. She was tired. I was tired too, but I wanted people to see how tanned I got, and the hair had changed colors. And I was tired, but I wanted to show off a little bit. And they were freezing, so I wanted to gloat. So I went to a gathering down in Hell's Kitchen, part of Times Square,
Yeah.
And I went. It was a few people there. A friend of mine from the gym. No alcohol was served. A lot of food, a lot of deviled eggs, which I love. Left there, they oohed and awed. I told them about the pyramids and Mexico, and I felt good. And I said, I'm tired. I got to go back home. So I caught the subway back home, and it was cold that night. And Sandy, that's my first wife's name. I said, babe, I'm home. I gave her a kiss. She went back to sleep. I took off my clothes. I got in bed, went to sleep. And I don't know whether I had to go to the bathroom or I just felt a presence in the room. But when I turned over, and at the foot of my bed was this person. And
Wow.
but he didn't have a robe on. My friend makes these. She's out in Nevada. She's an
Okay.
experiencer too, and she's an artist. And I would tell her the beings I saw, and she made them. So he had this on. It was like a jumpsuit, like
Okay.
this. It looked like Reynolds wrap.
Wow.
And he stared at me. I'm saying he could have been a she, could have been an AI. I don't know. I think
Yeah.
it was a person. And he was very thin. He was about 4 feet tall. He was off white like this. He wasn't really gray, but his head protruded even a little more
Like
than
a
this.
grayish white.
Yes, and he was, and
Okay.
it was a blue
Oh,
around
wow.
him, like a lapis blue and
Yeah.
white. My room was lit up, and she would not wake up. And I thought I was going to have a heart attack or go to the bathroom on myself.
Oh, boy.
I was that scared. And I looked, and he looked, and I looked,
Yeah.
and he looked, and I pulled the covers up over my head and I got in the fetal position. When I did that, it felt like it felt like I was outside.
Oh, wow.
There was whoosh, whoosh, like wind, like it was
Yeah.
cold. And my mind is trying to process all this. And I finally grew a pair and I finally pulled the covers down and nobody was there. I woke up Sandy. I told her what happened. I was a wreck. She is, we're still close friends. She was a very deeply psychic and spiritual woman. So she didn't say, what are you, some kind of nut? What are you talking? So I told her about it. I told some friends of mine about it, not a lot of people. And then they started visiting every full and new moon.
Mm-hmm.
Only when they would come when nobody was there except me. Because Sandy would work at night.
Okay.
And so they started coming when she wasn't there. And sometimes they would paralyze me so I couldn't move. They showed me one time a future event that happened. They showed me what I thought was a past life.
Oh, wow.
As a what? As a monk.
Huh.
So I've been a clergy person before.
Maybe that's why you went from acting to clergy.
Probably. I always, I started doing the hands-on healing work. This was years later, but I was in Boston at an anti-racism conference, and they visited me at the bed and breakfast I was staying in, a little gray person, and he showed me a pair of praying hands,
Yeah.
and where the palms were was a lightning bolt.
Oh, wow.
And so I looked at that. I put it on my business card, as a matter of fact, but I interpreted that as you have healing energy in your hands if you pray.
Huh.
So then I had a visit from a reptilian.
Oh, wow.
Some months later, I had a visit in 2019 from a praying mantis person.
Okay.
And on July 4th, 2013, I had a blood clot that was healed by a Nordic person.
Wow.
And
Beautiful.
my doctor, they couldn't explain it. And I have the papers over there. As a matter of fact, there should be an episode of Ancient Aliens coming out this month that I shot in December. And for the first time, they asked me about my UFO experiences. They've never asked me that. And I found out because they're going into their 19th season, that
Yeah.
they're going to develop, they're going to have a show devoted to experiencers.
Nice.
So
Nice.
sometime this month. Somebody told me that their first show is this Friday.
That's
So
awesome.
I don't know if I'm on there or not, but they'll let me know.
Yeah. That's actually, there we go. We're just what you said, ancient aliens. We can go from there. Ancient aliens and the Bible.
Yeah.
How do
Oh, yeah.
you interpret scripture through an extraterrestrial lens? Any specific Bible stories that you would choose out of all of them that would be the most like, this is extraterrestrial?
Oh, I think all of them are. That
Okay.
I think Ezekiel talking about going up in a craft on the river Chabar in Babylon. If you look at Jesus, if you look at his birth narrative, if you look at him leaving on a
Yep.
cloud, if you look at Moses and the Red Sea parting, they're using they're using the language of their day. Flying chariot or flying shield in Josephus when he talks about the Battle of Jerusalem. There were flying shields in the sky. But they're using the language of their day because they don't have the language that we have to describe what they saw.
Okay.
When they talk about angels, angels is a weird word because angels don't tell you what they are, it tells you what their role is. Angel means messenger, right? Angelos in
Yeah.
Greek, Malek in Hebrew. It tells you what their role is, but it doesn't tell you where they come from. Some of these beings eat food. Some of them mate with
Yeah.
earth women. So they're different enough from us. They're similar enough to us to co-create, but they're different enough from us. It's like when you see in Genesis 6, when they talk about the giants on the earth in those days,
Yes.
that the sons of God came down and mated with the daughters of men. So these are beings, these are real people. And nowhere in the Bible does it say that angels have wings. And for the listeners, I'm not saying they don't.
Yeah.
I'm just saying nowhere in the Bible does it say that. But I think our ancestors drew wings on them to tell us they could fly.
Okay. That
That
makes
and
sense.
yeah, and because of their technology, they were gods. Because of their technology, they were gods. I mean, these are pre-Stone Age people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's just like
And
the people that were helping the Indians, the ant people.
right, in the Hopi,
Okay.
just like the people in the Hindu Mahabharata and their sacred script, the Upanishads, when they talk about the Vimanas, the flying
Hmm.
craft, flying cities, some of them were called. Interesting enough, in the book of Revelation, John talks about the New Jerusalem coming down from the sky.
Ah.
That sounds like a mothership to me.
See, I was
To
thinking the
me,
same thing. Yeah, but when
yeah.
it came to like, okay, Plato, and I researched Plato and Chrysius and Timaeus, I believe it
Yes,
was,
yeah, yes, yeah.
where they
He
said
talks about
about,
that.
yes, and also where he talks about how Atlantis he thought got destroyed by an angel with a flaming sword, right? But what
Hmm.
I'm thinking is what he saw was Atlantis taking off, and he
You
saw
know, yeah,
the afterburner of it and coming, it was leaving, but it looked like a flaming sword.
yeah. I mean, these they're open to interpretation. There are other interpretations of that.
Okay.
I mean, he talked about in Timaeus and Critias, as you say, he talked about 2,500 years before Jesus. He talked about what we call quantum physics now. He talked
Oh,
about a fractalized universe. And he said you could go back in time so far back that you would get to a point where there's no time. We call that 0 point now. And he said we have one source. Some people call it God. He called it a source. And he believed in the gods.
okay.
He believed in a source and he believed in the gods, which I'm thinking are ETs.
Yeah.
But he talked about that every 5,000 years there was a cataclysm. There was either a pole shift or a flood or maybe a rock, an asteroid would hit us every 5,000 years. And then we would get a reboot, that the gods would come down and give us a hand. He talked about that. And he talked about living in a fractalized universe. He talks about reincarnation too. But he talked about we may be living in that time now where we could have an extinction level event. It could be a pole shift, which causes a flood or tsunamis. It could be an asteroid hitting us. It could be a nuclear exchange between superpowers. But he says that, and he found that out. He was talking to Berossus, who was a Babylonian priest, who got his information about Atlantis from an Egyptian priest, who got it from Atlantis.
Yes.
And people are still arguing about whether Atlantis existed. Why would Plato lie about this? Why would somebody lie about that?
It existed, or it wouldn't. Now, even if you have someone who, say you have the worst rumor in the world and it's passed down through thousands of years, but you still have that bit of truth that still comes with it along the way.
Yeah. It's like when people tell you that they've been abducted or, when people tell you that, now, yes, in rare occasions, there are people seeking attention. Okay. But basically, when somebody tells you that, they're not going to get the best seat at the restaurant. They're not going to get, they're going to get ridiculed. They're going to get made fun of. They may wind up getting beat up. Or, worst case scenario, all of the above, or they may wind up getting put somewhere and medicated.
Yeah.
So I think we need to take those stories seriously when someone says, "Hey, man, let me tell you what happened to me. I can't believe." Yeah, who would make that up?
Exactly. I mean, who wants to get that kind of attention anyway?
Exactly.
But okay, then if extraterrestrials and human consciousness, okay, if do you believe that ETs are guiding human evolution, and if so, how?
I believe that some extraterrestrials had a hand in our evolution. I believe that, and I'll tell you why. So it's not just Michael. It may have been 2009 or 2015, Chaim Mashed, who is the retired Brigadier General of Israel's space agency, said that there was a galactic federation, that there are bases on the moon and Mars, and that we have been in contact with these beings for 70 plus years. Okay? So that means, again, if he's not lying, and I ask, why would he? And they didn't lock him up. Nobody said, "What do you?" They didn't silence him.
No.
So that means that there is a galactic federation. So that means they're leaders of the world talking to non-human intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to know who's around that table, because usually there's an old saying: if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Yeah.
But that means that there are leaders around the table that you and I didn't elect, and they're talking with these beings about what's going to go on here on the planet and in the cosmos. Now we have people like Gary Nolan. The Vatican came out in 2009, and some of their priests, even what's his name, before Francis? The 16th. He was the 6th. Anyway,
Yeah.
he talked about it. And if people are talking about it, that means they have permission to talk about it.
Yep.
So this is disclosure. It's a soft disclosure. I don't know if anybody's going to come out on the White House lawn and say, but we got all these whistleblowers now. We got David Grush, we got Gary Nolan, we've got Brother Lou Elizondo. I mean, we've got all these people talking about this. So, and it's weird. They're all military.
Yeah.
which is interesting. But they're saying that we are not alone, that we've been in contact for at least 70 years. We know these beings have probably been here for millennia. And so they've have to have had a hand in our evolution. You
Hmm.
know, if you look at the Mesopotamian text, the Akkadian, the Babylonian text, the Epic of Gilgamesh,
Yep.
you know, they had a hand in creating us. I mean, Gilgamesh is a hybrid. Well, if you read the book of Enoch, when the sons of God come down and mate with the daughters of men, they created a hybrid race. And so they're teaching us about, they were teaching us about astrology, astronomy, teaching us about weaponry, teaching us about cosmetics in the book of Enoch, teaching us about fashion, teaching us about how to use crystals and those kinds of things. So they've had to have a hand in our evolution. Now, I believe in a creator. I believe in a God, whatever words you want to use. I don't think that if you're a Christian or a Muslim or a Jew, I think you can still believe in extraterrestrial life and still hold on to your religions. But in
Hmm.
answer to your question, yeah, I'm almost sure. I mean, Chaim Mashed and others are telling us. You look at the Bible, these beings are in the government. Yahweh
Yep.
is ruling over the Hebrew people, and wasn't all the Hebrew people. It was just the tribe of Jacob.
Hmm.
But he's, you know, then they get a king, then they get Saul, they get David. You know, Yahweh has to approve that. That's politics.
Well, since we're in the Bible again, what all right, the common misunderstandings. Now, what common misunderstandings do people have about UFOs in religious context? Just like we were
That
talking about,
that the
with the
word
angels and
the word Elohim is plural. It means gods and not God. It's been translated as the Lord. When you look at Genesis 6, when there's a council and the Lord, they changed that to the Lord, but it's the Elohim. Said,
okay,
let us make man in our image. That means there's more than one God sitting
yeah,
around that table. That's the biggest mistranslation. I've heard some people say, well, no, Michael, that's the Trinity. Well, it's not the Trinity because the idea of the Trinity didn't come until in the 300s.
okay,
Okay, so it's not a Trinity. And the Hebrew people don't believe in a Trinity.
yeah,
So you can't use that argument. And it is a plural noun. You know, so it is let us make man in our image. When you go to Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel,
hmm,
okay, they're building this. Now, some people interpret it as a ship or they're building something reaching to the sky. What does the Lord say? Look at them.
hmm,
We can't allow this because if we do, they're going to wind up being like us and there'll be nothing that they can't do. So we
okay,
have to destroy this Tower of Babel. So they get rid of the tower and they jumble up the language. Who's the us? They're going to be like us. That means there's more than one. And so that's the greatest mistranslation. Early
okay,
Judaism, early Judaism was changed between the 6th and the 8th century and they monotheized it. Primitive Judaism had a whole pantheon of gods. That's why, if you read the Hebrew, it says, you shall not have any other Elohim before me. I don't
okay.
want you making a picture of him. I don't want you bowing down to it. What kind of God is jealous? If you're the omniscient, omnipresent force, that you are, what are you jealous about?
Hmm.
What are you jealous about? Okay, you know what are you angry about? What kind of God tells you to go into Canaan and kill men, women, and children. What kind of God is that? That doesn't sound like a God to me. That sounds
Yeah.
like an angry warlord. That sounds like a being who's not from here, who's got a lot of problems, a lot of anger management problems.
But most, some, we have some that are good though that come here and do good things, and
Yeah,
some that are
yeah, no
bad that come
question.
here and do bad things. You have them either way. You have them with people. You have them with, it's the same thing up there. Your book, Intuition. I had to read that. That was so good. Um,
Oh,
what
thank you.
what spiritual transformations do experiencers undergo?
Um, I have the book right here in front of me, but I'm not going to look at that. Um,
Yeah, that was a great book, though, by the way.
just a change in consciousness. The person who's working on Wall Street, who's just money hungry, got to get the money. I'm just all about the money. Give me the money. And they have one of these experiences. Now, it doesn't always have to be an ET experience. It could be a near-death experience. It could be a meditation experience. It could be sex, tantric sex. But in this context, we're talking about, the ET all of a sudden they wind up being a healer. All of a sudden they give all that up. Something has changed. That doesn't mean a lot to me anymore. Now what do? I do massage now. I went back to school. I'm a counselor now. It's the change in consciousness. I don't, I'm not believing in the separation. We all come from one source. I want to protect the earth now. I want to, whatever it is you want to serve, you do like a 180.
Okay.
Like what I did. I wanted to be Denzel Washington.
Yeah.
Okay. I wanted to be Denzel. And then I went to New York and I had those experiences. And then I left being Denzel. And then I said, I want to serve people. I want
Yeah.
to be a
No.
minister. I was a chaplain. I do energy work on people. I counsel people. It's just that whole shift that you have changed and you're looking at life through a different lens.
Okay. That's a great way to put it. Can you share, let me see here, insights from your book on spiritual healing?
Yes, and it's pretty much metaphysics. Um, I talk about something that we've all heard in different ways, affirmative prayer,
Mm-hmm.
where I'm not looking at God, the source, the prime mover, architect of the universe, call it what you will. I'm not saying, God, please give me this. God, please give me that. God, it's a like Santa Claus in the sky. Part of healing is, I don't want to say faking it till you make it, but I'm already affirming that I know whatever I need will be there. I may
Mm-hmm.
even go so far as to thank this energy before it even happens. That's how much faith. I know it's going to happen. I'm going to
Okay.
thank you ahead of time. I'm short this month on my rent. Now, of course, I'm going to go to work. I'm not by magic, but I'm just having faith and trust that the way I look at life is the way that life is going to treat me. So I'm
Okay.
really a co-creator. I'm really more powerful than I think I am. And so if you want to think abundant, you want to attract abundance, then you act abundant. You
Okay.
know, and so you start becoming that because the mind only knows what you put in it. And if
True.
you say, "Oh my God, I'm broke," or "I don't have this," and da da da, well, that's what the mind is going to project and put out there. But if you say, "You know what? My needs are taken care of. I'm thankful for what I have. I have health. I have a roof over my head. I'm thankful for that. And I
Mm-hmm.
know more will come my way." That also is how you live your life, and you will attract the things that you need. That's a
Okay.
spiritual. That's a spiritual principle that I reap what I sow, and that whether I believe I can do something or whether I believe I can't do something, I'm right either way because the universe is just going to respond to what I
Okay.
believe. I think Jesus said, "It is done unto you as you believe."
Well, see, you must be reading my mind, because we keep going into the next subject, and it's the same thing with our shirts. That
Yeah, I know. Isn't that
this
weird?
this was not planned, okay, everybody? We
No,
did not plan this.
no,
We
we
did not
did not.
talk.
We did not. And yeah, I haven't put this shirt on in a year. And these are a pack. This is from a pack of new T-shirts I just bought. I was going to put a jacket and tie on, believe it or not, but I said it's my first time on the show. But I said he won't mind. And so yeah, I had a long day at work today at the
Yeah.
church. So yeah, so no. But I just want to say this before we go on.
Sure.
Excellent questions.
Thank you.
Excellent questions.
I listen, when I first saw you on, you were on, I believe it was Spaced Out Radio.
Ooh, a long time ago.
Yeah, I was on there. I saw that episode and I was like, man, if I ever get a podcast going, he is the first person I want on there.
And you got it.
I did. Thank you so much. Because
my pleasure.
You were just a boatload of information with finding out like the truth behind the truth.
Well, I love to study. I love to read. I had my experiences, and I'm not wired. I'm a spiritual person. I'm a religious, spiritual person. So I don't really care about back engineering, the hardware. It's important, but that's not the way my mind works. So, there are other people who talk about, how they fly and the engineering and the propulsion. That's lovely. My thing is, once you've looked one of these beings in the eye, how are you going to live after that?
Yeah.
What has changed? It's like now this is it's kind of apple oranges. I have a lot of friends who fought in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go to Vietnam. I was too young. The war ended when I was getting out of high school.
Okay.
So I have a lot of friends who were in Vietnam. At one point I was living in New York. They would just come in. I just meet people, and some were open with me, some not so much. They didn't talk about it. Mm-hmm. But they would always say, those that saw combat, they would say, they would ask each other, how are you going to act when you get back to the world? How are you going to act? After you've done some of the things you've done, you've seen some of the things that you've seen. And I'm not judging anybody. I've never had anyone shoot at me in anger. You do what you have to do. And they were young. But basically they're saying, after we've seen this and done this, how are we going to act when we get back? Well, after you've seen one of these beings, how are you going to, when you get up in the morning and greet your fellow human beings,
Yeah.
How are you going to act? How are you going to act? You going to act like a fool? Do you have a message? Did it make you see something different? And there are people who had terrible experiences.
Yeah.
So that's a whole different thing. I'm not making that everybody, this is all kumbaya. But for those people who think that it was a positive experience, totally. Not that there weren't glitches. Now, how are you going to treat people after you had this experience?
That's very true. I did 15 years in the military. I retired, and then I got out, and the first thing I wanted to do is help people, because I saw what was going on in Iraq, and I got back and I was like, what can I do to make things better? And that's when I made this podcast, trying to bring people together, their stories, their voice, and so they're not silenced. So they're not, sitting in a corner. My family won't listen to me, but they can come on here. They can tell us the story,
Yes.
and I'll listen.
And this is a ministry, Jason. This is a ministry, and all ministry is not about being in a church. You're empowering people. You have a message for them. You're not telling them what to think.
No.
You're letting them make up their own mind. But you're saying, let me share this with you. And to me, that is a ministry.
Thank you.
And we need it now. And we're going to need it more going forward.
Yes.
You know, as disclosure becomes more and more, I mean, we could have some difficult days ahead, you know, culturally, social, politically. You know, we got climate changes on us. I mean, it could be a hot mess. And we need communities and we need places where people can band together of like minds
Mm-hmm.
and try to support one another
Exactly.
to get through this. And that's what podcasts like yours do.
Thank you.
They're much needed.
Yeah, thank you. So now here's another good question for you. Now, how do you define God in a universe where ETs exist? Like,
Mm-hmm.
are there ETs that are saying, okay, we don't know what this is either? You know
Boy,
what I mean?
wow. These questions are well. You know, if you go back and read the Billy Meyer stuff, the Palladians believe they don't call the Palladians are interesting. They believe in a God with a small g, and they call the universal God creation,
Okay.
not creator like some natives do, Native Americans, but creation. And they have God with a small g, who's
Mhm.
part of the, you know, creating the human race. But there's literature where some of these beings believe in something great, but they don't believe like we believe, like it's a Santa Claus.
Okay.
They don't believe it's an anthropomorphic person with arms and legs, a sexuality.
So it's a
It's an
belief
energy.
without the emotional aspect.
It's an energy,
Okay.
right? It's an intelligence. And so it's hard for us to wrap our minds around that because it's so abstract.
Okay.
But they're saying, yes, there's an energy, but it's not the way you think about it. And so there's some ETs who acknowledge that. And there's some that don't
Okay.
even, I don't know if they even really talk about it. But they do think that what we're doing, fighting and killing each other over it, is not a good thing.
Yeah, I don't believe that's a good thing for
Not a good
anyone
thing.
anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
There's always another way around hurting or doing something of that nature. You can always talk things out. That's why I said
Yeah,
on this,
yeah.
on this podcast, anybody's welcome to come on here and say anything they want. Everybody has their opinion. I'm not worried about it. You might hurt my feelings a little bit, but hey, that's just my feelings. It's still your opinion.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah. I'm with you. I just think that we can disagree, but there's a way to disagree
yes,
where you don't lose sight of my dignity and I don't lose sight of yours. That
exactly.
I'm still a human being.
Now,
And so that's what we have to kind of get back to, that I don't even have to like you, but you are still a human being.
yes.
And once I lose sight of that, then there's a problem.
Okay. Now the Unitarian
Yeah.
Universalism and
Yeah.
cosmic spirituality. How does your faith traditionally approach the idea of
Woo,
extraterrestrials?
they don't.
They don't at all.
Well, no, I'm going to be fair now.
Okay.
When I first got there, and I was living a double life because I was not telling people. And I shared it with a minister friend of mine, a lady, Tracy is her name. And I remember telling her, we were in Boston, and Tracy she was a wonderful person. She had a purple Jeep.
Okay.
Yeah, she drove a purple Jeep. And we were going to an anti-racism thing. And I told her about what I just told you, my first encounter. And she said, Michael, I believe you believe what you saw was real. She said, but if you ever want to have a career in this denomination, you must never tell that story again.
Oh,
And I was like, okay. And then I've been there 8 years. So let's say about 5 or 6 years ago, there was a woman who was a big donor to the church, and she wasn't my greatest fan.
Okay.
But one day she said, I was flipping the channels at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I saw my minister on TV talking about little green men. She probably saw an Ancient Alien episode.
Oh boy.
And because they're on at 2 or 3 if you stay up long enough. And so what she did was she went to the board and she tried to have me fired.
Oh wow.
And yes, she did. And I thought they would because, like I said, she gave a lot of money to that church. But they surprised me, pleasantly so. They said, he doesn't preach it from the pulpit. He's not forcing this down our throats.
Yeah.
And he may be right. But we don't think that this is egregious enough to fire him. So I lucked out. It's a very liberal denomination. It's also a Protestant denomination. So I don't have a diocese. I don't have a pope, a bishop breathing down my neck, even though there is a sort of a hierarchy. So
Yeah.
I can get away with some stuff. But now people know, they see me on TV there. They know my beliefs. I don't force it on them. I may throw, if I'm preaching on Sunday and I feel that what I'm going to say about it is relevant, I'll bring that in. But they're over it. The other day, about 2 months ago, I said to them, we're talking about living in bubbles, and I said, for instance, how many of you will watch the hearings in November? Man, half the congregation raised their hand. So you never know.
All right.
They're keeping their eye on it.
All right. Now, here's one for you. Do you believe there is already an active diplomatic relationship between extraterrestrial civilizations and world governments? And if so, what do you think is being discussed?
Well, again, I go back to Hiram Mashed.
Okay.
I will go back to now. We can never really prove this, but I think Eisenhower did make a treaty.
Okay.
How could he not? He couldn't stop him. So I think there are treaties that we may know. Now, I'm not saying it is. I'm saying this is what I believe from my research, which is political. People say in the UFO community, oh, I don't get into politics. How can you not? This whole thing is politics. It's exopolitics and geopolitics. But I go back to Hiram Mashed, who says that there is a galactic council and that the governments of the world, Israel, United States, he named a few others, probably UK, France, said, that we've been in contact with these beings. So he's telling you that we are sitting down at a table, and Russia. And so, I'll take him at his word.
Yeah. Well, I know we had somebody in the chat that said something about that she disagreed with it because with world governments having, if they did have some kind of treaty, wouldn't they have a landing spot for them? Or is that maybe Antarctica where nobody can go?
Well, those are two different things. I don't know, but you can't, if you have a treaty, at least in the United States with another foreign power, that's treason.
True.
So you can't come out and say, oh yeah, we signed a treaty with that. No, you can't do that. That's treason.
True.
So I don't know about that. I wanted to get back to the second part of your question.
Okay.
Hiram Mashed said that there was a group of extraterrestrials who wanted disclosure, and there's a group of extraterrestrials who don't want disclosure.
Okay.
So just like there are human beings who want disclosure and some who don't. But he did say that one extraterrestrial race says that until human beings know what space is, what it really is, that we weren't ready for this. We weren't ready to join this galactic federation of planets.
And that was
I
going to
don't
be
know what he
actually
meant by that. Yeah.
that was
But we
actually
don't
going to
know.
be my next question
Yeah,
was
we don't know what space is. But when we get there, then we will probably be able to join the club, as they say.
yeah, that's true. I know Grace in the chat is also talking about, can we talk about what's under the ground in Los Angeles? I know exactly what she's talking about. That's the long hydrogen or the Hadron Collider. They have a collider under the ground. It's a university that has it in Los Angeles, California. It goes under the ground
Oh,
like
yeah. I didn't know. I don't know anything about that.
yeah, I didn't find out about that till maybe about a month ago. Literally, if you're driving in California, you could be literally driving over it. So it's kind of, I mean, it's down there a ways, but you figure if that thing's on and there's traffic, what does that really do to people's cars?
Well, what is it there for?
It's
What
the
is it?
same
What's the
thing.
purpose?
Same thing as what they do in over in CERN or wherever that is over in CERN, where they do the super speedy atoms and stuff through the tubes and they smash them together. It's an atom smasher.
Oh, okay. I wasn't even aware of that.
Yeah, I found out just like, yeah, strange things. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like people are saying it in the chat. There's a lot of strange things going on in Los Angeles, California, and you got to figure, could that, I'm just thinking in my head out loud, they have something under the ground affecting magnetically. Is that like affecting everything else in the area? More storms, more fires, more this, more that. I don't know. I'm just like putting it out there.
Yeah. Well, listen. Listen. Anything is possible. I'm certainly not going to say that's not true. But what's going on with our climate, it all affects everything.
Yeah,
And so literally, whether it's our technology with our banking systems, and we are one, we are all connected. So whether it's whatever's under the ground there, whether it's what's happening to our planet, it's all connected. We're all connected.
Okay.
And it's this belief in separation that is really causing, I think, the spiritual problems that we have.
That's what I think too.
It's on the planet that we believe in separation. We believe that collectively, that if you get more than if you get something, it's not enough for me.
Yeah.
You hurry up and get it. There's not enough to go around, so let me take it all. Let me hoard it. And because I don't realize that when I do that to you, I'm going to be affecting me, and vice versa. And that's a spiritual problem. That's, nothing's going to fix that except a change in consciousness, which I believe this whole phenomenon is. It's not just about the tech. It's about the change in consciousness. In order for us to survive as a species, we're going to have to change our perceptions and the way we think about things, or we won't survive. It's just that simple.
That's very true. When it comes to diplomacy in nowadays, when we have, we're thinking about we might have treaties with, extraterrestrials. What about how do you interpret historical accounts of gods or angels interacting with humanity? Were these early forms of their diplomacy, or were we just being, led along like ants, like, here, go mine this for me, or here, go mine this for me? Or was it like a kind of diplomacy back and forth?
I don't think it was diplomacy, because diplomacy implies an equality.
Okay.
You got something I want, I got something you want.
Well, they were given technology though a little bit, weren't they? Maybe, possibly.
Well, let's say that what Eisenhower, let's say Eisenhower made a treaty. Okay. So Eisenhower we get technology. So what did they get? They get the right to take us at night, do whatever they need to do, bring us back, And I think that some part of the treaty was you just give us the names of the people you took. So we were the technology, if you will. That was
Okay.
that exchange.
Okay.
Okay, if that was true,
Yeah.
got to always put that as a caveat. Allegedly, Eisenhower said, "I can't stop you. You know, I can't stop you from doing anything."
Yeah.
Then there was the diplomacy. If this part of the story is true, that the Nordic people came and said, "We need you to stop your nuclear activity, and we will show you some spiritual truths."
Okay.
And Eisenhower said, "No, can't do that. Can't do that. That's not good enough."
Well, it's
You
like,
know,
so so it wasn't kind of like a treaty. It
so
was
that's
kind
not
of like,
diplomacy. Yeah, that's not
not back
diplomacy.
then it was, but now
No,
we're growing up spiritually enough to understand more. That's why they're trying to interact more.
some people are, but some people are interacting because when we, as you know, UFO sightings increased after we bombed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's like
Yes.
having a dangerous neighbor down the street who plays with guns. We need to go down there and check them out. These people
Yep.
are dangerous. So that's when sightings really, kind of jacked up. Even when you look at the history of, when you look at, for instance, the King's List of Sumer, the King's List of Egypt,
Oh,
and
that
you
goes back
see these
thousands of
kings,
years.
you see these kings living for 1,000, 200,000 years. So
Hmm.
that's a clue that these people are not human. So what did they do? Some of them mated with earth women.
Hmm.
They had children who were hybrids, right? So they were part human and part ET.
Hmm.
And so they were ruling, right? So their
Okay.
parents leave, some of them leave. So now you have the hybrids running things. And so what do? They pick out human beings who serve them well,
Hmm.
who did their bidding, and they made them priests. They
Okay.
made them high priests. And so now these human beings they got some power now. So they're going to rule like they saw these ETs rule.
Okay. Because I know you've seen, I know in the like the pyramids, one of the pyramids you see, it's like they're holding a light almost
Mhm.
in their hands, and I'm like, that's technology, and that's the priests, pretty much holding the light for
For the
for
gods.
for the gods, or lighting up the tombs because,
Yeah.
yeah, or the passageways because they didn't have, well, I don't want to say they didn't have electricity because the Baghdad battery was out there, and that is shown to actually have electricity natures in it that it can perform, electricity out of it. So
Well, yeah,
they
yeah, but yeah, no, I agree. But we're going
they
back.
could have had electricity.
But let's finish with the diplomacy piece.
Yes, yes.
If I'm a minister, or back then
Hmm.
I was a priest, and they say to me, "Michael, you've been faithful, you've done everything we asked. This is our reward. We're
Hmm.
rewarding you. We're going to leave." And so now I'm the diplomat. I'm
Yeah,
representing the gods.
yeah.
So I'm the diplomat now with other human beings. So I'm the go-between.
Okay.
And you see that whether you're Catholic, you see that in the church today. The minister, he or she is the between God, the gods,
Hmm.
and the people. And that's where
Okay.
that hierarchy came from.
I got you now. Okay. Okay. So if we were officially invited into a large galactic community, what qualities do you think we need to develop first as a civilization?
I think that we would have to show that we knew how to treat each other on the planet.
Empathy.
Well, empathy, compassion,
Hmm.
love,
Okay. Yeah.
forgiveness. Now, this would depend on what were in charge, because some of those
Yeah.
things may not mean anything to all of them.
Yeah.
But I think, and if Chaim Mashed is right, the ETs that he's sitting across the table with, they're not. I'm sure they want us to have that, but basically he said that we need to know what space is about, interstellar travel. I'm sure those
Exactly.
other things we just named would be helpful, but I'm sure that they don't want us taking our destructive ways, our warlike ways, our garbage. I'm sure they don't want that taken out into space.
I've heard that before from many people, that we're kind of quarantined to, here
Hmm.
on this galaxy, or this,
Yeah,
universe
because we're
here.
not evolved enough. We're
Yep.
not evolved.
Yep.
But hopefully that can change.
I'm hoping so too. So now we talked about this in the beginning. Let's turn around and go back to it. Um, in your religious and spiritual institutions, do you think they would embrace or resist if someone came out from the government, like say the president came out tomorrow and said, my fellow Americans, we have ETs, extraterrestrials, vehicles, bodies. We have live people here that you can meet. Now, how is that going to affect? Is the church going to resist that, or are they going to go with it? And you see us evolving past that? Is it going to be a resistance?
Yeah, it's
Okay,
already being resisted. It's already being resisted. We've had these hearings, and the churches have not responded at all.
that's true.
Have not responded at all. At least
Okay.
not publicly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, you think just it's going to be just them resisting the
Just to
whole
make a
way?
comment. I mean, the Catholic Church, of course, they've responded. They've made comments, but
Mm,
no one else has.
okay.
It's already
Okay.
being resisted. And I can tell you, I'm in dialogue with some other church people around the globe, by texting and stuff. And
Mm,
they're afraid. They are, and I get it. It's because when you've been told one thing all your life and you've based your whole life on it. Maybe if you're an academic, you've written papers and books and tenure
mm,
and that kind of thing. If you're a minister and you've grown up with one way, and now you're being told after all these many years that that's not true,
hmm.
it's hard to wrap your mind around. I'm not making an excuse. I have been okay. I don't have that issue,
Yeah.
but a lot of people do.
Okay.
Now, there will be people who will take it in stride, but most people will be, in shock because the first thing that comes up is, are you saying there's no God?
Mm,
What are you saying? Are these demons? How do you know they're not demons? How, what do you know? And so that those questions need to be answered, and there are
yeah.
people working on that, I'm sure, but like you said, that's a hypothetical. I doubt if we'll ever see that because
Yeah.
again, that is, you know, you got to have plausible deniability to an extent,
Yeah.
and that's really political suicide if you come out and say that.
Well, it was
But
like, what
it's
was it? 1999 or 1997 is when the church came out and said that the sun was at the center of our galaxy, and I'm like, didn't we know that years ago before 97? But they came out in 97 and said it.
well, they were apologizing because they had really
Yeah.
done some bad things to people. But now the Catholic Church is open to this, and that's amazing because 400 years ago they put you to death if
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
even talked about life outside of the solar system. So, matter of fact, my sermon this Sunday is about that.
Oh,
Not
wow.
particularly ETs, but someone who was put to death, and he did mention that there was probably life outside of the solar system. And
Oh, wow.
back in the 1500s, his name was Giordano Bruno.
Okay.
He was a Dominican, and he thought that there was life on other planets. He said that Jesus was just like us, but a little more evolved. that this guy didn't believe in heaven or hell. He said those were things made up by the church. He was a very brilliant man, and they burned him at the stake with his books. John Calvin.
Yeah. Well,
John Calvin burned him at the stake. Yeah.
well, you've got even like the church nowadays is just like the government kind of when it comes to their secret document vaults and can't read this script because we don't know if it's validated or not, but 80 people looked at it and said it was true, but we don't want this to get out, so we're just going to stick it under here. That's kind of what I'm getting at when it's the church, and the church has their own kind of secret vault along with the government.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Catholic Church is long known to have secrets, and I know, this is how governments are run. And, if you want to be a superpower, how do you become a superpower? Well, how do you stay a superpower? By keeping other people from becoming superpowers.
Mm-hmm.
And so, secrets are power, and this is the real world. But, slowly but surely, we're being told
And guys,
led that we're not alone. I mean, now everywhere you go, especially on social media, it's nothing but UFO, 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 UFO. And that is part of it, so we get acclimated to it.
okay. Is that, you think, why the drone swarm happened in New Jersey? Kind of like I don't believe it was all drones. I don't believe it was all military. I believe it was a mix of everything, pretty much.
We don't know. See, that's the thing. But what we do know is that people's responses were being monitored.
Yes.
Some people flipped out. Some people took it in stride. Who was it? Bigelow, the millionaire, who said that all UFOs are identified. You just have to figure out if it's ours or theirs.
Okay. I like that when you said ours or theirs.
Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah. Yeah. So is this ours or theirs?
Yeah. So what role do you think the Unitarian Universalist values play in preparing people for interstellar relations? And can we apply interfaith dialogue principles to extraterrestrial diplomacy?
I don't think that the UUs can prepare us for this.
Okay.
I think what they do prepare us for is how we can get along with each other. If we can get people of different faith backgrounds and different beliefs together on Sundays, then surely we can get people together. I think that's a good start. I think that it's prepared me because I'm one of very few clergy that are talking about this publicly. I'm also one of the very few clergy that is coming out saying that they're an experiencer. I would hope others will. I understand why they don't. But what was it, 18 months ago or so, there was in the paper, on social media, that there were a group of religious scholars got together talking about this. So there are meetings going on probably that we don't know about.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
There are reports of secret space programs, hidden off-world operations. Do you think that humans are already engaging in interplanetary relations outside of the public awareness?
Well, again, we go back to Chaim Mashed. He was, this is all what these whistleblowers are telling us. This is what David Grush is telling us, right? This is what they're all telling us. This is what Lou is telling us, So I think that question is already answered. I think this is what Chaim Mashed is telling us. We've been doing this for over 70 years.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And if he's saying their base is on the moon and Mars, that question is answered.
Okay. I believe that then. True.
Yeah.
True. What advice would you give to world leaders if they were preparing open contact with an extraterrestrial civilization? And are there universal ethical principles that should guide first contact? Like,
yes, I think that's a great question. I think there are, or there should be. There are probably people working on it right now as we speak. I think what we as human beings, our leaders need to ask, why are we doing this? What do we want from this? Do we want just to get high tech? And because whoever gets the high tech rules the planet? Or do we really want to change our ways, that what we've been doing now is not working anymore and we are at the brink of extinction? I think we have to ask those questions. What am I doing this for? What are we doing this for? What interests are being represented? I keep going back to High and Mashed, but if they're having, what's happening is they're having meetings, but they haven't talked to us.
Yeah.
They haven't talked to the citizens of the nation, of each respective country. So you're representing us, but we don't even know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Because you've kept these secrets. And so that's to me, that's what's crucial, because who's representing our interests?
Yeah.
What's going on that we can't know about?
Exactly.
And like I said at the beginning of the
Behind
show,
the scenes.
yeah, if you're not at the table, you're probably on the menu.
Okay. Many experiencers claim telepathic communication is the standard method for ETs. Do you think human consciousness needs to evolve to engage in meaningful interstellar diplomacy?
Yes.
Okay.
And I know when I was visited by the reptilian, he didn't open his mouth, but I heard his voice in my head. That's why I know it was a he.
Yeah, I was actually visited as well when I was 16, Mantis, and it was same thing, head thought transfer, voice.
Yeah, it was like I had speakers in my head. Yeah, I could hear. Yeah.
Yep. What is your next projects? And are you currently working on any new books or TV appearances?
No new books as yet. My next project is, I don't really know what it is. Right now I'm taking a break. I got a sabbatical coming up in June for 3 months. My next Ancient Aliens appearance is supposed to be this month.
I'm going to definitely want to see that.
Yeah, I do too. They usually call me to let me know. But and I'll be talking about all of my experiences, and so we'll see how they edit that, and that's supposed to come out this month. I've just been doing some podcasts, and church has been keeping me really, really busy. So we'll see what comes along. It's a busy time, but just with church stuff, with family life, and that's kind of it for right now. But that's and I just got I'm getting my website revamped. So my website is obviously you can get my books on Amazon. My newest book is a collection of sermons called Enlightenment. It came out last year this time.
Okay.
And
yeah, if any,
my website.
Sorry about that. If anybody in the chat is looking now, I actually have all those book titles in the description of the chat, so you guys can look it up and look up his books. That all of them are in the chat as well in the description of the episode.
Yeah, because that's a book that doesn't have anything to do with extraterrestrials. I have 2 books on UFOs in the Bible, one on healing and prayer. One is a 30-day meditation manual. Okay. And of course, Initiation, which is a handbook for experiencers, or if someone in your family, or if you think you're an experiencer. It's called Initiation, The Spiritual Transformation of the Experiencer. And my newest book is called Enlightenment. Okay. And it's a book of sermons on social justice, philosophy, religion, race, all that is in that book.
Awesome. What advice would you give or what would you say to people having UFO experiences or questioning their spiritual path?
Give me a call. Send me an email. michaeljscarter.com
I'll put that in the chat as well,
Yeah,
too.
michaeljscarter@gmail. I would say do not go to people who are going to ridicule you. That's not what you need now. You need someone who's going to listen to you, who's not going to judge you, who's not going to say, that's the sickest thing I've ever heard. No, you need someone who's going to be gentle, who's going to listen, who's going to be objective. Because that's where healing can begin. You do not have to give up your faith tradition just because we live in a populated universe. Those stories in the Bible are about people like us who were trying to, they were telling us this is what it's like to share the planet with these beings.
Yeah.
This is what it was like, folks, and wrestling with who and what is God, which is what we all do.
That's true. We do that every day. Everybody wrestles with it.
You got to wrestle with that because it doesn't matter if Michael believes. What matters is your experience. It may be very different from mine.
That's very true.
And that's how you know, not because someone told you, but because you experienced it.
Mm-hmm. If you could share one universal truth with humanity, what would it be?
Be not afraid.
Be not afraid.
Be not afraid. Don't let, you got two choices, love or fear, every day. Which one are you going to choose? It's a lot of scary stuff going on out there.
Okay.
A lot of stuff that can make you fearful. Don't let it make you so fearful that you don't live your life. And I think even Jesus said that, be not afraid. Be not afraid. Mm-hmm. You're where you're supposed to be. You're doing what you're supposed to do. Because if you're fearful, I can control you. Because all I got to do is work on your fear. If I know if I know what makes you afraid, I press that button, you belong to me. Yeah.
All right, we got we'll go into a couple questions here if you have time, sir. We've got Tanya Rinna, and I'm going to butcher this name. I'm just going to say Rindafil. Okay. They want to know, here, I'll put it up on the screen here. Want to know what the UFO is doing here. I think we got into that a little bit. Why they're here now, pretty much. Like, why now?
Well, okay. Again, we're talking about, Tanya, we're talking about different races. So I can't tell you why all of them are here. Nobody knows that. It's, but they've always been here. Some of them started our religions. Mm-hmm. Some of them have been here through several cataclysms. What we can say is that when we split the atom over Hiroshima and Nagasaki, World War II, mm-hmm. we started getting more and more visitations. And I likened it to neighbors down the street saying, there's someone playing with guns down there. They're dangerous to the neighborhood. We need to go check that out.
Yep. It's like that's what I thought too. When both the atom bombs went off, over there in Japan, it was like a beacon that went off on Earth saying, "Here I am."
Well, I'm dangerous.
Yeah, that too. Here I am. I'm dangerous.
Yeah. So that's it. But remember, when you say they, you don't know because there's so many different races, and everybody has a different agenda.
True.
It's like saying why. It's like saying, what do all the black people want? Well, which black people? There's so many black people with different agendas and different political beliefs. So, you don't want to do that. Yeah, you can't. Why all the Ukrainians here? We don't know. Some are here, some are not. So, but it's like that we do know that they speed it up after we bombed those people.
All right. Another question here we've got from Medell Niff. Did he ever have any experiences in a place that resembles, here it is, resembles a lab?
No, all of my experiences were in the bedroom of my
Okay.
home, except for when I was at that conference in Boston. Now, when I got regressed by Bud Hopkins and Gene Mundy, they're both the late Bud Hopkins and late Gene Mundy, I had an experience like when I talked to you
Mhm.
at the beginning of the show, and I was out the window. I felt like I was outside, and I woke up. I mean, pulled the covers down. Well, the continuation of that with Bud was that I was taken on a ship, and
Okay.
I was lying on a table. But that piece of information I didn't know.
Was it
I didn't know.
when you were in the ship, was it an actual like table you were laying on, or
I
was
was
it
lying on a table. There were no. There were no corners. It was round. It looked like it was chilly.
yeah.
It was there was Now remember, I'm in fight or flight. There was a light, but I didn't see a lamp. I
Okay.
didn't. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah, that sounds like it. When I had my experience, it was like it's like if you take your finger and you put it on the inside of your mouth. That's kind of what the ship, when I went around the corner, I got off the bed and I went like this and I looked around the corner, but I could feel when I touched the corner, I was expecting it was going to be hard, and it turned out to be soft, like like putty or something, like an organic,
Like
inside the
it's
ship.
alive. Like
Yeah.
it's alive.
The
Yeah,
ship was alive. Yeah, pretty
yeah.
much.
Like it's alive. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's got an intelligence or something.
That's exactly what it was. And that's somebody told me that fits the characteristics of an actual encounter with mantis beings, because usually their ships are organic.
Yeah, yeah. I can't speak to that. I mean, I know a lot. I've heard of other races having the same thing. That the ship is somehow alive.
Okay, yeah, yeah. We've got one more coming up here. What are your principalities? Uh, what exactly? Oh, wait. Here we go. What exactly principalities in the Bible talks about?
Not familiar with. I don't know what
Not
that.
sure what she's trying to
I don't
say
know
there,
what that means.
or what are principalities.
What
I'm not
I'm
sure what
I,
she
I'm
means
not.
by that.
I don't know what you mean.
Principalities can mean a lot of things.
Yeah. So I don't know. I
Grace, if you wanna put your question back up there again, what are you talking about as far as principalities, like, and then we'll come back to that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that means.
I'm not
Principalities.
sure either. I just but no, it was interesting though when that was the most interesting thing I thought with just hearing you talk months ago, is that you were a minister. No, that you were an actor, and then you went to ministry, and then you had a total you know brain shift or character shift.
Well, a lot of entertainers. I don't know if you remember Della Reese. You may be a little too young. Della Reese. She was in Touched by an Angel. She
Okay.
was she was a singer and actor, and she wound up being a minister as well. Denzel Washington just got baptized in some church, and so he's going to be doing that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Clifton Davis, who wrote the song "Never Can Say Goodbye." He also was on a TV show called Amen. He was a minister, Reverend Clifton Davis. Uh,
Yeah.
so so yeah, there's a lot. There's a very similarity in the best sense of the word. Church is theater. Now, I'm not talking about ministers who put on a show and you can see that, but you're coming out in front of an audience, you're delivering a message, hopefully a message that will empower or give some type of insight. And the good ministers know how to work that audience. They know how to give a message where people are going to sit up and listen to what you're saying. And if you've had some type of training, you know, how to include people, you know, you look over the room, you look at people, you know, there's techniques, and you keep people involved. You've got the edge on a lot of speakers who just come out there. You've seen speakers that they were polished, and you're like, wow, that was a really good speaker. And then you've seen someone else go, oh, it's okay, you know, what they have training. And the more you do, the better you are. I mean, I can't tell you, you know, I 3 Sundays a month. You know, I mean, I'm at work during the week because I got to visit people in the hospital. We've got, you know, I got to run a church, but 3 Sundays a month, I'm in the pulpit. So when I get called to do a UFO conference, yeah, I got to write my speech and maybe I get my slides together and whatever. But I'm not. It's not so foreign to me because I spend my days in front of people talking. And it gives you a little more experience.
That's true.
Yep.
That's very true. If anyone had any more questions that they wanted to ask, they can go ahead and put them in the chat now.
Yeah, because how much more time we have?
I mean, we can either wrap it up now or go on for a couple more minutes, 20 minutes or so. I mean, whatever you want to talk about is fine with me.
No, I'm fine. I mean, you know, I can stay on for about 5 or 10 more minutes because I want to spend some time with my family before I get up and go to work tomorrow.
Family time is also important.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry I couldn't answer Grace's. I don't know what the principalities are.
I'll have to. Hey, Grace, if you actually want to maybe get your question together and email him. He might be able to get back to you on that because
that's a good idea. Yeah,
not doing the video chat. Other than that, it was very, very nice talking to you. Like, I couldn't have had a better person on for, you know, my first guest on the podcast.
Is this your first podcast?
This is my not the first, not the very first one that I put out, but you are the first guest that I've had. I only had 2 other episodes. This is the 3rd one.
This is beautiful. Well, I wish you continued success.
Thank you.
It seems like you got a good group. You got a group that's knowledgeable and they ask the good questions. And, you know, I'm me, man. I'd rather just say I don't know than sit up there and BS or make up something. If you ask me something, I don't know. I just say, hey, I don't know. But, whoa, you got a long future ahead of you with this. It's beautiful.
Thank you.
And if you ever need me to come back on, you know, if I can do it, I'll do it.
I will definitely reach out to you again for that because we could definitely spend a lot more time on this subject.
Yeah. And you know what? Whenever you call me back, but I think I feel really strongly, Jason, that we will be tackling, when I say we, I mean the society.
Yep.
We will be tackling the religious aspect of this. It's just like right now it would freak people out. But, you know, right now we're talking about tech and national security but there are people talking about this. And, you know, if you ever want to go into that, because the Bible is full of those stories, and Old and New Testament. And then when you compare it with the Quran, or when you compare it with the Hindu scriptures, and they're talking about these craft and these gods, and some of them had a hand in creating us. And I think that's what will flip people out, because they're going to go, well, didn't God create us? But there's stories about these beings upgrading us, genetically altering us. You look at the story of Jesus. You got to ask the question, hey, if my mom is human and my daddy isn't, that means I'm not fully human. And
Yeah.
then you start saying, well, these miracles, maybe they make a little more sense now. You know what I mean? Because
Yep.
you're not really human.
Got.
We call them hybrids now. The Greeks called them the Titans.
Mhm.
They're called the Elohim. They're called the Nephilim in the Bible, the Anunnaki in
Mhm.
the Mesopotamian text. So, those are things we could touch on next time.
Yeah, we've last question for you then for the night.
Okay.
What Grace and Spice has another question here. What are some other ways a person might be contacted besides physical abduction?
Dreams.
Okay.
Dreams are big. And I'll tell you when you can know Grace and Spice. That's a great question. And get back to me about the other one. Don't give up on it. Just try. I just didn't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
We have principles in our church. We have We have 8 principles in our church. I'm going to answer your question. And so even though we all come from different traditions, because people say, well, what keeps you together? We have
Yeah.
8 principles that we agree on.
Okay.
And so,
So you might all come from different church backgrounds, but you agree on the core principles.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but I don't know if she was talking about that. She's talking about the Bible and principles. Maybe she's talking about the 10 Commandments. I don't know. But going back to what you were asking, I've had, when you have a dream, it's usually murky, it's distorted. I've had dreams where, let me just put it like this, not to confuse you. Grace, if you have a dream about an extraterrestrial, or maybe a loved one dying, or someone who's dead, let's say they come in your room. In your room, your watch is here, your clock is there, your dress is there, your bureau's there. If that is the same way in your dream, that's not a dream. That's real. Because these beings know how to manipulate time and space. They really do.
Okay.
And so now that's when you can tell that it's not a dream. When you wake up and you say, boy, I thought I saw a gray person, or I felt this, they were telling me that. And everything in your dream is just like it is in real time.
Yeah.
You were visited.
Oh, wow.
And this is shameless, but if you go get my book,
Put that on the
Initiation,
screen. Yes.
The Spiritual Transformation of the Experiencer, this will tell you what you can look for. If you have a friend, family member, or even yourself, and you're not kind of sure, am I a contactee? This book will give you the signs to look for to help you know.
Yep, and for everybody out there, I've got all those
Yeah.
all his books again is in the description of the episode, and
Yeah.
you can find them online.
Yeah, and like I said, you can email me. I'll
Mhm.
get back to you. I mean, I'm usually at the church, but I'll get back to you. If you
Yeah.
have a question, I read this in your book, Michael, doesn't make sense to me, or come on, did that really happen? Yeah, just
Yeah.
write me. I'll get back to you.
Yeah. But if
I
that
promise.
is all the questions for the night, then I will go ahead and I will say good night to you.
Good
And
night to all of you. And like I said, if you want, in a couple months, if you want to do it again,
definitely.
you got great questions, and maybe we can go through whatever it is, because the way things are happening so fast, we may have another hearing come up. I'm sure we'll have one in the spring, and we'll have something to
Oh
talk
yeah.
about.
Yeah, definitely. But I can't wait to have you on again.
All right, brother. Listen,
Hey.
everybody have a great night. Be not afraid. Don't let them take away your joy, and make it a good day tomorrow. All right?
That's
Live
a great way
long,
to put it, Reverend.
live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper, Reverend. Thank you for being here.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. That was Reverend Carter. I'm going to let his email up here. We could not do the full 3-hour like I wanted tonight as far as the episode goes, because time constraints, and he wanted to, spend time with his family. That's very important. So what we're going to do is we will wrap it up now with anything else that anybody else wants to ask me. Our next guest, which is next week on Wednesday, I'm so excited that we are going to have the ET Embassy here. Co-founder for the ET Ambassadorial. Yeah, he gave me a big speech, but it was I can't wait. I cannot wait for him to be here. It's gonna be incredible. He will be here. I believe it'll be next week on 8 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. on Wednesday of next week, which will be bring up my calendar here if I can get it up. That didn't sound good. Calendar. Where's my calendar? All right. So anyway, next week, Wednesday at 8 to 9:30, and that will be on, let me get it here, my calendar. Wow. That will be on the 12th. Oh, wow, I should have known that. Well, and if everybody wants to know, that is my birthday. My birthday is March 12th, 1985, I was born. So if anybody wants to support the podcast, and please share it out, subscribe, and we're going to walk this path together. That's what we do. There's nobody here that does not have a voice, that does not have something that they need to say. All right. If you feel that you're not being listened to at your home, you feel that people aren't understanding you, you can come here. Everybody's voice is valued. Everybody's opinion is valued. Nobody is shunned here. We will not do that. That is not what this group is about. This group is about peace, love, and light. That is what I want. Okay? That is what I want more than anything else in the universe. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to end this podcast. Thank you, Lady Daniel, for the happy birthday wishes. Like I said, I can't wait. March 12th, my birthday. We're going to be having the ET Embassy here. I can't wait. It's going to be a great show. And you guys have been so great with the questions and with being here and subscribing. I'm very thankful. And I hope that you will join us for the next one that we have. And if anything else comes out in between, we could have a couple episodes in between the Wednesdays and do a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon meditation session as well. If that's what everybody would want, go ahead and put it in the comment. If you want me to do, Saturdays, Saturday night or Sunday night, we could do a deep meditation and contact session with everybody here. But yeah, just let me know. And yeah, we will go ahead and do that. Thank you, Mr. Nobody, for the happy birthday. And I will see you guys all either on, let's see, if we do the meditation, I'll be here Saturday night or Sunday night, whichever works for you guys. And then we'll go ahead with the Saturday night. Okay. I'll go ahead and get something together tonight, and I will go ahead and post that tomorrow. That Saturday night, we'll do it from 8 to 9:30 or 10, 8 to 10, because we'll have we'll do an hour and a half meditation with a half an hour of what everybody felt and experienced and everything through the meditation. So we will do that on this Saturday at, we'll say 8:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 10:00 Eastern Standard Time. So I guess I will see you guys again on Saturday night, and we will do a deep meditation with some soothing music. I had some good soothing deep meditation music that I'm going to be using for the meditation on Saturday. Give you a little preview real quick while we're ending this of what it's going to sound like. But as far as that goes, Grace and Spice, yay. Yep. So we will go ahead and we will end this this session here. I'll go ahead and give you a little bit of a preview of the sound that we'll be going through. Yep, that's fine. If anybody can't make it, I always put these all of these will be put into the YouTube podcast channel, and you'll be able to go in and even if you can't make it at that time, you'll be able to click on it later and you'll find it. You'll find it in there. I'll have it on the list, and you will definitely feel a lot better after doing this meditation. I'm telling you. So without further ado, I will call it a night, guys. And I thank you for subscribing, and, please subscribe, hit that like button, share. We're trying to create a community here of peace, love, and understanding. And here we believe we are all one species born of earth to spread life, or to spread liberty and light throughout the galaxy. Liberty and light, people. We need that throughout the galaxy, and once we do, there's nothing stopping us from going higher. Well, peace, love, and understanding. That is correct, Lady Daniel. We cannot forget the love. Peace, love, and understanding throughout the galaxy. So we need that more than anything, and I thank you guys for being here, and have a good night, guys.